Come on, YouTube. I believe in you.
Tight.
All right, cool. Volume's working. We're good to go.
Perfect. So we're live.
Yep.
Awesome sauce.
Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming to the weekly stream. We are down a Zach today. However, we're gonna truck on through. So I have the agenda up here that we came up with this week. Zach's leading the charge for the Bread for the Journey partnership, which is a local nonprofit local to Omaha. And we're gonna start the design review for their website and look at improving it so that they can help more nonprofits and get more visibility. Next announcement is just a reminder to vote for One Swag. Susie posted in feedback.
Yes. Or
Nope,
was
I
it
lied.
one of the core
Announcements.
channels? No, it's not announcements either. I think direction. Nope, not there either. Proposal. No. I'm just pulling.
Searching for
pulling.
messages from Susie.
Where is this form? I saw it not too long ago. Resources? No, it's not there either.
Hold on. One Swag. I should have had this pulled up.
Ooh, someone joined.
Oh, it was in feedback.
Okay, so you're
Oh
right.
yeah, so we're doing a voting on which hoodie you guys would like, and then we're gonna set up a little store page for people to be able to buy One Leaf merchandise, so that we could rep One Leaf.
Looks like Zach made it after all. Hello, Zach.
Oh, I didn't hear him join. Hi, Zach.
He's muted. But yeah, sorry for interrupting.
Uh,
Only swag.
yeah, it was just a reminder to vote for those, so that way we know which style people are interested in.
Is there a deadline?
March 8th, I believe, is what Susie said. So we have 3 more
Okay.
days.
Oh, that's soon. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I voted already.
Me too. It looks like sweatshirts are winning, or one of the sweatshirts has like 10 votes.
Very interesting. I'm a really big fan of
Or not
the.
sweatshirts, hoodies. Sorry.
Yeah, because I think the second survey was for the hoodies, right?
Mhm.
Exclusively. Um, I'm a big fan of having the logo in like the breast area versus like straight out all over the chest. Um, but that's just me. I'm very biased.
I'm wondering if we could almost set up a store page where people can like kind of pick their own. We just wanted to narrow it down to the most common ones.
Right. Would
So
that be something that would go on the website? I'm presuming.
that would be cool if we could get like a Shopify page or something like that. I'm not sure. We haven't made a final decision on how it's going to work.
Got it.
Um, so open to suggestions, but it would be really cool in the long term. Definitely, yeah, we want it on the website.
Okay. That might be something to add to the wiki as well, so designers can think about how to
I
design for it.
think I put that in the roadmap. Well, let me go check.
How's it going, Zach?
It's going all right.
Apparently I didn't, huh?
Work was tiring, or
No, work was a lot of fun. It's just
just a
not
long
really
day?
motivated today.
Ah,
I got stuff done on my own projects, but
well, there's always those days.
yeah.
One just has to
I'm
sit.
just trying to think of more community projects that we can all work on. I guess that's what I'm getting stressed out about. Is like,
Hey, that's our topic for
yeah,
today.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
people on, GitHub
Stand by.
or whatever, and yeah, just like we don't have to work on the projects that we have right now. Like we can start new ones and hopefully
Right.
not slow down too much. But the more projects we get, more people are going to work on projects, and
Right.
yeah. But
Well,
we'll talk about that later. Sorry.
yeah. No. I think it's good that you brought it up, anyways. But
Yeah, so I was just staying late at work, working on Swift UI kit, so I got a PR up. And
Hey, I saw your PR.
I found so this is weird, and I'll just shoot this really quick. My unit test that I was writing actually broke. It passed on my end. I was running on some iOS 11 simulator, and in the CI in the GitHub Circle CI, it runs the iPhone 11, which is I think based off of 13. And apparently, the UI switch view uses one less view in iOS 13. So my test actually like failed, and it was like one number off, and I was like so confused. But
How does that
that's my
happen?
quick story. But that's a good tip on writing unit tests because you will learn things that you never knew. And now I'm going to test every single view and see if there's a difference because I can check how many views it takes to like create that view.
What was the
But yeah,
view that was like specific to iPad? Was it called like
it
split
was
view or something?
UI page controller, something like that.
Yeah, I'd be
I don't
curious on how
know.
that one works with the CA. Anyway, so we went over. I glossed over a bit for the journey, saying that we're going to start the design review. Do you have anything to add to that?
Just preaching to the choir that it needs to be customizable, like a CMS or a portal they can sign into and edit everything. So pretty much, yeah, that's kind of like the goal. Out of the design review for the week, we'll have some like strategy or something to go and talk to Joe. Is it?
I think it was Joe. Yeah.
Um, yeah, Joe from Bread of the Journey, which we're still waiting on him for some times that he can meet, and we're gonna meet in person and actually get a real discussion on what they expect, what we can provide, and what the MVP will be. But looking at their site, I feel good. I mean, it's not too complex of a site. They had some contractor do a low budget, like skeleton site, so
Yeah, it
that's
doesn't
kind
look
of nice.
bad. It's just it could be better.
Yep, and it's just a pain in the butt to change anything, so they gotta change in their board, and they got some new board members. So I think they actually have to go in like the code or do something. I don't know, but it doesn't. None of them make it seem easy. They're like, oh, that guy does it, and maybe the other guy. So, but yeah.
Is
Um,
it just breadforthejourney.com?
I think it was linked in Notion for specifically what it is. It is
Oh,
Bread for the Journey
breadforthejourney.com is available to
.org.
purchase.
Oh, there you go. It's
Mm.
breadforthejourneyomaha.org.
Omaha?
No, all
Oh,
Bread for the Journey Omaha.
okay, so it's
It,
all one.
it was a national organization and then that dissolved. So the Omaha chapter actually verified themselves. And oh no, I'm looking on red text on an image. Oh, they're right there, right there. Oh, I see it on stream. It's so ugly. Or streams a few behind, but it's like hard to see. But yeah, that's that one. Bread for the Journey Omaha.org.
Very interesting.
So our, I guess I didn't put it in here, but active project stand up will be what we'll talk about next.
Direction.
Yeah, direction, all that jazz. Um, there weren't a whole lot of updates this week. Everybody's kind of nose to the grindstone, getting designs and whatnot done. That and a lot of people are either moving jobs or have uh, life getting in the way. So we don't have any direct updates. The only thing that I can speak for is uh, like the designers have gotten a lot done, but they're not done yet, so I don't want to show them. And then I guess I started on adding the map for the Meet the Team page. As far as the direction channel goes, actually, hold on, Zach, you want to speak to what you've done on Swift UI Kit this week?
Yeah. So I had Oscar. Oscar kind of jumped on and forked the repo and is making some changes to add layers or layer support, which was an issue that I had to improve the layer modifiers. So you could quickly add border, make the corner radius whatever you want, and color it, make the width different really quick in just the modifier syntax of like chaining dot something set the value. If you go to the issue, you'll see the example. But yeah, he's apparently doing a whole suite of like main stuff of CA layer. So hopefully he pushes it. He said in a few days, so I don't know. I'm not gonna try to rush him, but I started writing my own test and I set up the CI. So now on like every build or every push, it will test that commit to make sure that all the tests pass. And really now it's just bunkering down and working on tests, like writing some Swift UI kit code, and then just checking if it's exactly the same as like a view and that stuff.
Oh, you added a
But
lot
yeah,
of documentation too.
oh yeah, I added a ton of documentation. So I'm gonna get a big pull request, and it really it's just gonna be changes in the back end. I'm not gonna push a major update until I have features, because I don't think pushing an update for a unit test makes any sense.
That's fair.
But yeah, that's Swift UI kit. Getting kind of angsty. I want to make the oneleif iOS app, but gotta wait for design. So that's almost ready, or I'm ready at least.
Mm-hmm. And just for context, would the app be it would be a completely different platform than the website, right? Or would it be the same?
It's the
Like
same, just
informationally.
yeah. It would just be maybe just a viewer, and you can't edit things.
Mm,
But really, it's just to give some other people experience in a mobile app, iOS, Android, or even kind of doing the same thing but using React Native or Flutter, and to remake it and just.
right. Got it. Yeah, I was confused on.
No, yeah, it's definitely not the main thing, but if we think, the OneLeaf website opening up it as like an iPhone or, a Pixel, then I mean those designs would almost transfer to an app in some sense. Not like navigation wise or any maybe, but we'll see. Yeah. It's
Right.
just a difference. But yeah. Yep.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you.
Interesting. So I'm trying to add a Giphy to my um, bunny hop repo so I can show off what the game does, but I have to upload it to the actual repository first, which kind of sucks.
Ooh.
Yeah, so you can either upload it to that repository and like under an assets, like GitHub assets one on the top level, or you can just have a repo that hosts all your assets.
That's a good point.
Because like the OneLeaf repo hosts the images, so we can use them on anything. So you
I
don't actually have to put in the OneLeaf logo to like link it in your README.
Yeah, I think I
That's
may
just
just
an
make like a
example.
public repo to hold all my assets. That might be the best way.
I saw a GitHub account for a dog. It had no commits, sadly. I was really disappointed
I was
that
waiting
it
for him
didn't
to
have a.
have like a some sort of like low-level embedded controller for like one of those fetch machines that you put on
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
Raspberry
it's
Pi
just.
or something.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. But no commits. He actually had followers. So that was encouraging.
But
Okay.
anyways,
Any
other
direction
active
or
projects. What'd you say, Zach? Sorry.
was sorry. Did we talk about the active projects changing the
Oh, we
org
did
the
not.
restructure? Yeah.
So we talked about it on previous streams, I believe, but we were talking about how there wasn't really a good explanation for how the projects are set up, and Zach's made it clear that there's um, a distinction between different types of projects. So there's organizational projects that OneLeaf as an organization wants to support. So those would be the OneLeaf website or one of the projects that we work for with one of our partners, like Bread for the Journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's community projects that anybody can hop on that are run by one person. They're not for the organization, but anybody can hop on. So, for example, Zach's Swift UI kit or my Bunny Hop project. And then there's inactive projects that have been dead for a while, but we don't want to delete their channel because they might come back and be more active. We don't want
Right.
them to lose all their information that
Work.
they've had. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the goal is basically to kind of get this level of distinguishment between what is a one leaf project and what is a just public project that other people are running that you can hop on. Anything else to add to that, Zach?
Um.
And did you mention that was ongoing, or did we get to that distinction?
I think we have a little bit more distinction to go for like the almost the scale of publicness, I guess. Like it could be a project that just like a one-off that's only going to take like a week, or if it's going to be one that's like more serious, that's going to take more dedicated people that the owner of the project almost has to interview people, I guess. Would be the best way to explain that.
Well, at the very least, we do have that organizational and community split now, which is a good foundational step, I guess.
Did we talk about the volunteer rank for mentors? Was that last stream? I always forget.
I think so. Yeah.
I think that was last
Or
stream, yeah.
yes, I believe so.
We haven't added that rank yet, right? We have not.
No.
No, I
Oh,
don't think we.
okay,
Yeah.
that'll be something that we. I'm gonna put that in our to do on the Trello, Zach. But yeah, that'll come this week. I just gotta remember to do it. Whoops. And then we'll just add that to the interest channel for another thing that you can subscribe to. But just to reiterate what that is for those that didn't make the last stream, basically we want a separate role that would, like if you click on someone's name, you can see the distinguished role for being a mentor. So that way you can feel free to ask them anything.
Is there a way to do that without conflicting with the other tags? Because right now, core is taking precedent, right?
Um,
The
Well,
only way
that's a good.
to do that is to put the rank above it, and then the highest precedented rank will take into effect of whatever like the person is. But you can always
Yeah.
click on them.
right. Okay, got it.
But I think at some point it's inherently like there's people that like to mentor, and like anyone I'd say in the core team would be like someone that you could learn from, and we're all kind of open. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't want us to get bogged down, but like I don't know. That's it's not even. I don't. Yeah.
Right. No, that makes sense. I just didn't know what would show on the right.
Yeah. It would probably show mentor right above daily coder. Or yeah.
Very interesting. Are you still up trying to upload the GIF, Sabian?
So I uploaded it to Giphy thinking I could use their link on the page. Couldn't figure that out. I'm probably just bad. So now I just uploaded it to the repo itself because I'm feeling lazy. But now I realized I created a pull request for it and I have to merge the pull request to be able to reach that code. Sometimes I can be dumb.
All right. That's
Anyway,
very
yeah, sorry.
commendable.
We'll keep going on. Oh yeah, the other active project, my Bunny Hop project, release 0.2 will be out hopefully by the end of the night.
Hey, kudos to both of you for the progress.
Woo.
Hey,
I,
where's the Mac app? Or where's the Linux build?
uh,
Just
I,
give me a Linux build.
dude, I'm gonna make a Linux build just because I want to know how fucking amazing it runs on your machine. Pardon my
All right,
French.
thank you.
Okay, so onto the fun topics. We had some requests for like some general information that like you don't really get from college or any other, you know, resource. So we wanted to go over some interviewing tips, some tips for choosing the right language slash operating system for your goals, and then Fardine brought up the idea for figuring out what project would be right to help you progress towards those goals.
Yep. Or even trying to look for project ideas.
Yeah. So if we start out with interviewing tips, we were helping a guy earlier this week, Jacob, I believe, try and set up his resume and whatnot because he's looking to get into Python jobs, for example. And there's a lot that goes into it that if you're coming in from a different industry or you don't have a good mentor that you could just be completely unaware of, and it's not due to the lack of research or whatnot. It's just the information's not. It's not that it's not available. It's not. It's just that it's not easy to find, I guess. Because like, how do you know who to trust on what information? So for example, one of the things would be on your resume, if you're going for a software engineering job, do you put uh, proficiency with Microsoft Word and Excel? Well, in my eyes, I'm gonna go with no because it's kind of assumed if you're a tech savvy person. However, if you're going for a job in something like program management or something, they may want that. It's still in the tech field, but it's not, specifically for software development. So you almost have to cater your resume almost directly towards the exact position that you're looking for. Um, you guys want me to keep going, or you guys have anything to add?
Uh, no, that makes sense. Well, I don't know if I'm as qualified to speak on this just because I'm on the job hunt myself, but I'll let you guys take the lead on this one just because you both are working full time already.
So I'm just gonna pull up my resume so that way I can speak to things about it. So Zach actually helped me a lot with my resume, um, and some notes that I took away from it were that you don't want it to feel like clustered. You don't want it to, you want it to have like some breathing room. I've seen some people that have just had a metric ton of experience, and they either try and shove it all on one page, and it's like just a wall of text, or they put it on 2 pages, and the odds that a HR person is going to flip to the second page is pretty low. So our goal is your goal as an interviewee is to get the most important information across right away, so that way they don't have to go skimming through your resume or skimming through your cover letter and whatnot to find what you're good at. Um, so, for example, if you don't have any like applicable experience, put your latest job or the one that you were at the longest to show that you're a quality employee at the very least. If the work itself doesn't necessarily apply to what you were doing or to what you're going to do, you may not necessarily need to put that unless, for example, let's say I worked at a customer service job, like I don't know, McDonald's or something, or a call center. You could put like customer service awards or those type of things to prove that you're an enjoyable person to work with at the very least, and that will transfer between just about any job.
Hmm. Like the interpersonal and team skills, especially.
Yeah, exactly. Because soft skills are hard to find in the programming world. Um, so yeah, I think the thing that I struggled with the most, and that most people will probably struggle with the most, is your objective. Getting a clear, concise um, couple sentences that says exactly what you are and what you want to be can be really difficult to not sound childish, um, to not sound anything other than professional and trying to work towards your goals.
And I guess also to be someone
You are cutting out.
can
Let me hop out and hop back in.
hear me.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah. As someone who's had to recently make one as well, I think
You're cutting out again, Fardine. Hello?
to also uh,
Zach, is he cutting out for you too?
be genuine with it, with the
Yeah, I can.
word limit. Oh, am I still cutting out? Oh, let me.
There you
Right,
go.
right as you start
Oh,
sounding normal.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you sound
oh
fine.
yeah,
There you
yeah.
go.
Okay,
Okay,
got it. Where did I cut off?
the whole thing.
All over.
Okay, so what I was saying was that I agree, and it's really difficult as someone who's had to recently write one for myself. It's really difficult to be authentic and concise about it too, because usually a lot you want to say, and there's a character limit, and it's really hard to know what to say as well about yourself when you have so many examples with other people's resumes and their advice and so on. I think being genuine is one of the hard things with that specific part of the resume as well.
I feel like you also get conflicting advice from everyone that you talk to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's a lot of survivorship bias, right?
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
and what might have worked for one person might not work for another just because of this, like the type of jobs, the industry, the employers. There's just so many factors you can't really account for. Sure, there are best practices, but you're absolutely right that um, that there's a lot of conflicting advice.
Um, I think the hardest type of resume to make is for one that's trying to break into a new field, and doesn't have any experience that's relevant. I mentioned earlier about experience that would be relevant, like interpersonal skills and whatnot. but not having any direct technical experience may make it really difficult to make your resume. Um, where OneLeaf comes into that, and where you know what you can do outside of work comes into that, is that personal projects would really define you at that point, because you don't have any professional experience. So not only having one personal project, but having a fleshed out personal project, one that you can put on a portfolio, or multiple different projects in multiple different languages to show that you can learn quickly, um, are solid ways to prove that you can, in fact, handle what a job can throw at you.
Right.
Just to provide an example, the current job that I just started at, I had very little experience in the frameworks that they're using. I know the language that they're using, but not the frameworks. So I had to prove in my interviews that I would learn quickly, because that's basically what they're counting on, is that I'd be a good team player and that I'd learn quickly. So you have to somehow, if you don't have the expertise relevant for the job, you have to somehow prove to them that you're worth their time and their money. That
A point to add to that as well is that you get to learn a lot of nuances um, in the tech workplace that you might not get working on a solo project by yourself. For example, being part of the OneLeaf website, even though we have a very rough structure and we really haven't shipped a complete product yet, by being part of something like that with a multidisciplinary team with people from all over, you get to learn things about like how does design dev handoff happen, what are some common problems with things like that? How do you redline a design document? How do you create a design system? How do you well, I'm speaking mostly from the design side because that's what I can speak to personally. But those things you might not get the opportunity to learn when you're working on a solo project or a personal project. And I think that's one of the great perks of being part of something like OneLeaf.
Yeah, no, I think it's like you can dip your toe and hopefully we can get more stacks. Like I don't I feel bad for Python, but like Python could do, back end or like Flask or that stuff for, data visualization, but like client in like a GUI client in Python, I don't know. But if someone writes an API, then anyone can use any like front end to make it a client for it. So, but yeah, I used to work on a ton of like my own projects, and then I actually got on a project with like a team, like a small team, and it's like night and day difference. You have to give up some things because you don't have like 100% to say anymore because it's not like a project you work on in a silo, but it you learn a lot more. And also, I mean, someone can make the back end and you can make the front end or vice versa, and you can kind of share responsibilities at some point. So it's really interesting. And yeah, I mean, I think the most valuable thing for at least coding, the last thing I'll say is definitely code reviews, kind of just looking at each other's code and, making sure that, it looks fine. Uh, But yeah,
Hmm.
normally you don't get that by yourself. It's like, why would you look at your own code? You just wrote it and it runs on your computer. So,
Right. All
but
right.
with other people, you want to make sure it always runs. So, but
Well,
yeah,
it's the same for design as well, right? I just posted an article on doing design reviews and why it's one of the most important designer skills. And exactly to your point, I think you miss out on that as a designer as well without having other designers on your project.
yeah, no. So yeah, that's a little plug of jumping on these community projects. Yeah, I mean, even if they are like a personal project and someone jumps on and just helps a bit, you still get that team experience. So hopefully we
Hmm.
can get some more of those. And yeah, do feel free if you work on a project and you don't have that much experience. Just put this down under experience. You don't have to call it a job and that stuff. It's a project that you've worked on, and at least you can talk about it in the interview.
Right. All right. Well, work is still work, right? If you do it
Yep.
in a formal, however formal setting it is, and you actually have a deliverable and you can prove that you've gained experience, that there was knowledge transfer, and that there is a tangible product, um, it's as long as you present it correctly, I think that's what matters the most. Are those
Um,
all the tips that we have, or?
uh,
Um,
I think with something to look at that Zach and I really like would be your GitHub page.
Hmm.
So this is kind of for developers, and I'd be interested to hear the design side of things, but something that many may not look at would be your contributions. Um, GitHub gives you a nice little graph showing you all the open source contributions you've done. So if you have a considerable amount of contributions, or even some, it might be worth it to put your GitHub on your resume, and hopefully the technical recruiter, if they're a good recruiter, they'd go check out your open source contributions to prove that you are in fact getting things done. If not, then if you have a portfolio site, maybe you could take a screenshot of your contributions, or have some sort of live pull from the API to show that you are indeed getting things done. We haven't talked about LinkedIn yet, right?
mm-mm.
Well, I could cut in quickly with the design
Yeah,
part
go for it.
since you mentioned. Um, for designers, we don't really have a GitHub equivalent, but we did cover two other platforms. Susie mentioned Behance before, and then there's also Dribbble that we talked about on a previous stream. Those are the two common platforms where you can showcase your designs, your creative work. It doesn't even have to be just graphic visual designs. It could be anything ranging from photography to creative writing, um, and you can even sort them into different buckets and categories to present them however you want. But I think the main tool for a job application, and as someone who's having to make one himself, is the portfolio. Um, I think regardless of whether you're a designer or not, being any sort of creative, that personal portfolio um, is your showcase, and there's nothing that trumps that. Showing off your work, pieces of it, and explaining your thought process in a detailed way for anyone to see and understand is very crucial to show off your credibility and skills. So yeah, those would be the ones for design.
Yeah. Leading into LinkedIn, it's pretty much the same thing about the resume. Just your LinkedIn profile should be kind of like your resume, and then some nice other things that you can add onto your resume. So and it's organized the same way. I think they also have a way to print out your profile as a resume.
Yeah, you can save to PDF.
Yeah. So
I've never done that before. I'm curious. Whoa, it actually looks good too. Interesting.
Hmm.
That's kind of cool.
yep. So do treat it as a resume because I don't know. Can other people just print off your resume? Like if you go to my profile, can you print off my resume?
Well, I don't know if many people in today's world would do that
Oh,
anyways. I
yeah, you
think
can.
I'm
digital
just
is.
curious. Whoa, you can get okay. Hmm.
Um, I will speak differently to this. For me personally, LinkedIn has been more of a networking tool than a resume tool. For a lot of people, it's the inverse, and some people are able to find the balance as well. It's absolutely instrumental in job applications for sure. But for me, it's always been a way to consolidate my network in one place, um, and present whatever information I want to them, um, and receive whatever information I want from them. Um, so I think speaking to the other side of LinkedIn, it really, really helps when you use it as a part professional social network to complement your job search. A lot of people try posting on their public feeds to their network so that they get public support in whatever position they're looking for. Some people might have an open position in their own company. Some people might know someone else who's looking for whatever position you're applying for. And doing a mass post like that really helps your efforts. Um, LinkedIn also has a cool feature where you can make your profile public to recruiters. and I think there's a toggle feature where you can say open to recruitment. Um, so even turning that on, changing your headline to say that you're looking for positions, little tweaks like that, where you're thinking of LinkedIn as a network and as a community for professionals really helps with the job search.
There definitely is a switch for turning it on to let recruiters find you. I can't remember where it's at.
Yeah, it's hidden somewhere. I forget as well. But there's like these little things that people tend to gloss over when they're polishing up their LinkedIn or applying for things. They forget that it's not just a static page and it's not just your profile, that there is a whole secondary element to the platform.
I have met more recruiters through like LinkedIn than anywhere else, like by far. Oh hey, I got the GIF working. About time.
Oh,
Mhm.
congrats. Is it on the GitHub?
There you go. I sent a link in my uh, channel. Sorry,
I
sidetracked
didn't
us.
see it. No worries.
Did you say you see it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure. Um, Anyways,
Pretty
so
interesting.
the last set that we wanted to hit on for interviewing tips is to kind of reach out to OneLeaf for feedback. And I don't want to say that any of us are like professional advice givers, but the nice part is you're going to hear a bunch of different advice from each of us. And then it's kind of like if anybody ever tells you like don't listen to the news or whatever, the best way to go about it is to listen to like polar opposite viewpoints and then kind of find that happy place in the middle where you think the truth is. So if somebody says don't put Microsoft Excel on your resume and somebody says do, and they both give you different reasons for it, then kind of try and find that happy place in the middle of where you think your goals lie and why it would be useful to you. Um, so what this leads into is once you do have your resume set up and whatnot, what do you put on your resume? um, and this is where we want to help people find their goals and help people get projects set up so that they can put things on their resume that will help them get the jobs that they're trying to go for. um, so we start, I think this might be a little out of order for choosing the right language and operating system. So step one should be your step one should be choosing your goals, right? So once you have your goals, then you can choose what languages and operating systems help you achieve that. And then once you have all that decided, then you can start learning, and then you can start getting a project that you're working on, right? So let's just take an example, right? Let's say um, Billy Joe Bob, his goals are to make enough money to support himself. Um, he likes making games, but he is scared of the game dev uh, industry, right? So what would be some options that we could come up with here? Well, some ones that come off the top of my head would be data visualization. That is something that is used in a lot of industries, but doesn't necessarily have to put you in the gaming industry. So then, let's say now your goal is set on, okay, yeah, I do actually want to do data visualization. So then we go look at the languages and operating systems that the industry uses or that are up and coming that you could start to study for. That by the time you're ready to go would be kind of standardized in the industry and would there'd be enough jobs for you to move into it. Um, you can start learning those, and then we can help you find a project to utilize those skills that you've been working on. And it's kind of hard because everybody is on a different like it's almost on a case by case basis. Like we can't just say I want to do data science. We can't just instantly say Python because um, maybe you want to do data science, but you're also interested in mobile development. Well, Swift can do machine learning, so maybe you want to actually end up doing Swift instead of Python. Uh, so really there is no like blanket way for us to just say this is the right path to go down, but I think a good way for us to explain this might be to go through some more examples or talk about what are good languages and operating systems and projects that are up and coming in a more general manner.
Do you do you want to just talk about ourselves and like we're
Yeah,
both
yeah. There you go. That's a good
kind of
idea.
stuck on operating system using our chosen languages, so we can kind of talk about that, or
Yeah, go for it.
how we picked it. Um, oh, cool. So in high school, I got a MacBook Air, and a buddy told me, he's like, "Hey, you got a Mac, why don't, and an iPhone? Why don't you make an app?" So then my mom gave me an app idea, and then boom, all right, I was programming Objective C, and I was kind of forced to choose Objective C, and I was forced to use a Mac because Xcode, and you could only develop like iPhone apps on a Mac using Xcode, using Objective C. So that's how I got where I am. Pretty simple. Other than that, Swift came in. Swift was the better version of Objective C. I still like Objective C, but Swift had a lot of cool features, so I switched over that. And yeah, other than that, I've actively chosen to move my main computer and use a Linux computer running Pop! OS with i3 Window Manager, and I do Swift server side on there, and like other things that I can do command line with Swift and that stuff. So
So let's go back and examine you a little bit further.
hmm
So you started out doing Objective C, but you wanted to stick with iOS. Um, and so the reason you started doing Swift is because Swift kind of took over the the development that is in the industry, right?
yeah,
Um, and then for the Linux side of things, what made you want to use Linux for Linux server or for Swift server side over Mac?
so I realized the only reason I use Mac is because it has Xcode. Other than that, I would rather use Linux. Just I used Linux like only with uh these tiling window managers in high school, and I used a netbook. So the fact that I did a lot of Java, and I worked on a text adventure in Java, so I have a soft spot for Java, but Kotlin's the new Java, so that's where I'm at with that too. So, and Kotlin's so close to Swift where I'm just nah. Um, but yeah, I did choose a language because I wanted to do apps, and then yeah, I did jump and learn another one. But like just focusing on one language, it was easy for me, so that's why I stayed away from web.
And I kind of so that kind of transitions great into mine because I kind of had the same thing where I didn't want to transition to web. I wanted to stick with games. Um, so I guess for background, I actually went for pre med in college, and then realized that 8 years of college is just not going to be doable for my mental health. So I had to find something else to do, and I just ended up going for just a general computer science, and then found out that um, you could. Back at that point in time, I didn't even know software engineering was big enough to get a decent paying job and have a stable income and whatnot. But as soon as I did some research, I found out that that was indeed the case, and I instantly made the search because I was already spending all my time poking around on computers and doing things like that. But programming specifically, like application level stuff, wasn't what I had a focus on. It was more like small scripts for games and stuff. Um, and then once I got into college, similar to Zach, I kind of started out with Java because that's what the college taught. Um, and then I tried Unreal Engine to make games, but it had too steep of a learning curve for how very little I knew at the point. Um, so then Zach showed me Unity, and I kind of took off from there. Uh, Basically, Zach gave me like a 20, 30-minute talk of like, this is how a component works, this is how you do this. And then from there, I was like, oh, this is so much easier to understand. I can get started on this. So I went and watched, hundreds of YouTube videos and whatnot and started playing around making my own games. Um, and I keep getting in the same habit of getting almost done with the game, hitting a hard brick wall, and then changing games. uh,
Yeah,
however,
that's tough
so
because I think also a lot of other people get that too. Sorry to interrupt.
no, you're fine. In just about anything,
But
it's not just games.
yeah, that point alone of like I think everyone should have a personal project that you work on. Like self-improvement is the best improvement that you can do. I learned the best by doing like just learning by myself. College didn't have any mobile classes, so there's no iOS or no Swift classes or anything like that. It was Java and C, which I don't mind too much, but it wasn't when I was doing it in my free time. So it was an investment of like years of learning that, but luckily I had a job at college to be iOS developer for the college. Um, but yeah, I think everyone should have a personal project, and going from that, once you get blocked at a point, and once you get like to a point that you're stuck, I mean, feel free to reach out, but it's either you can get by it, or maybe the project is like too difficult, or maybe you should simplify it down. So there's either really those two outcomes of like you can overcome it, or like you're just going to go to another project and work on something else. And there's the image posted a while ago of the developer that builds it like a ton of houses and they're all half finished, um, and he just keeps going on to the next one, and you never actually finish a project. Finishing a project and hopefully getting to some kind of production state is kind of like if you played a game and you're in the end game or that stuff, or you get a whole nother production support. You have the option to update it. You have the option to get feedback from actual people. So it is a different experience, and that's what a lot of people look for in a job too. Touching back on that, is all these projects that you're working on, but the real goal is to get it like built, MVP, get it to production, like have other people have it in their hands. And yeah, so that was just what I wanted to touch on about, yeah, you getting stuck on your project. Sorry.
So, um, as college came to a close, I had experience. I got lucky with my first. So, I was doing a VR project with a friend at the time, and I went into an interview and brought up that side project. For my very first internship, I had no experience. I was about as crappy of a developer as it got, and I somehow got the job. And it was solely due to that project. We had barely started. We hadn't done a whole lot of work, but the manager could see my drive and my passion for the project. And not only that, but it sparked that manager's interest, and he actually helped us with the project. Um, However, that internship was mostly IT work, so it was like fixing people's computers, downloading Adobe products, all that jazz. I got to do a little bit of SharePoint work, which is kind of like Microsoft's version of WordPress, and I got to dabble in a little bit of JavaScript and jQuery, um, and that was fun, just kind of problem solving. But I came to find that the web world is like too massive for somebody at that level to take in. Um, and I stayed it there for I don't know a year and a half and enjoyed the small business life. And then I moved to a new company for a .NET job, and it was a health insurance company, and that was just the most boring thing I could ever do ever. And I was only there for 3.5 weeks. And like my second week of the job there, one of my friends from college reached out and said, "Hey, the company that I'm working at has an augmented reality developer position." I was like, "What? Game development in Omaha? This is like the only opportunity out there." Um, and I went and interviewed, and I was like the only person with Unity experience in the Omaha area, so I got pretty lucky there. And they started me on the project, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I kind of had to figure it out as I went, and I ended up staying there for 2.5 years until I got my latest job doing, you guessed it, .NET development again. Um, and basically what I came to find is that I'm not going to be able to do game development without risking either job security or mental health. Because what I've come to find in the game development industry is unless you go for an indie company, AAA companies are most likely going to treat you like crap. So that kind of killed my interest in like being a game developer full time. So I've just been doing it as a hobby and then programming in the day, doing um, whatever the job requires. And basically, what I came to find is that what I'm doing during the day, as long as it's programming, doesn't really matter as long as I have a team that I enjoy, and like a flexible work life schedule and whatnot. Um, and that was a more recent realization that having a team that you enjoy throughout the day is much more important because you're going to be spending all day with them, going out to lunch with them, all that jazz. Friday, you want to go?
For how we got to where we are today.
Yeah. And I know you aren't, a professional designer or whatever yet, but you're
What
pretty
system
damn
do you
close.
use?
Oh, me? I use I used Linux at work for the longest time when I was doing Java development. For .NET development, you pretty much have to use Windows, and then Unity. doesn't really work the greatest on Linux. Once it does, like once it's in once it's out of preview and in release, I'll probably try it on Linux, and I'll probably end up liking it and sticking with Linux. Uh, but for now, I'm Windows mainly because I keep everything on one operating system. I get to do my game development, my game playing, and my work. But if the newest .NET Core will be usable on Linux, so I'm imagining in the next couple years I will probably be doing both my game development, gaming, and work on Linux.
Ferdy, what operating system do you use?
Windows.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, I'm in the majority. I do have experience with Linux and um, why am I forgetting the name all of a sudden?
Mac,
Uh,
Windows.
Not Mac. Actually, I'm very very bad with Macs or any Apple
Oh,
device.
ooh. Oh,
Like
It's so easy.
I struggle. I actively struggle, and it's um, very embarrassing whenever a friend would hand me their Mac and they're like, "Oh yeah, just go to this site." I'd be like, this is like an alien. This is very alien hardware right here." Um, no, actually, Ubuntu was my preference for the
oh,
longest time.
nice.
I really like
Yeah.
Ubuntu.
Yeah, it's very sleek. It's very enterprise, and they have a very good design system. So I think the aesthetics really appeal to me, and how they navigated the business side of their their venture, even though it is open source and they are, I think, an established nonprofit. Um, yeah, so that's my OS, Windows.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
I forgot to mention that I did use Mac for quite a while when I was making iOS apps with Zach. Um, I have no problem. Okay, so if I had to order them in terms of like which one I liked the best, it would be some form of Linux operating system first, probably Ubuntu, um, and then it would go Mac and then Windows. I just use Windows out of necessity.
Yeah, mine's the same.
Yeah.
The only reason I have to use Mac is because of
I-
Apple's licensing of the SDK and the hardware that you have to deploy and build on their hardware to build their software. Other than that, if Xcode and everything was on Linux, I'd just use Linux. I don't know. And also just touching on Linux gaming. I don't know if a lot of people know it, but Steam has really kind of uh, been the spearhead for the whole Linux gaming. They have Proton that's came out, and looking at the games that I have, let's see, they're all in different categories, so it's not I can't count the total number, but I have like about 400 games,
Wow.
and the ones that are playable. Oops, scroll
oh,
past
on
it.
Mac,
It's pretty much like
it's a fraction of that.
everyone is playable except for like very few. And it's like a flip of a coin if they actually run, but when they do run, it runs really well. So they've really gotten the I don't know, what is it, DirectX environment kind of mimicked over in Linux. So yeah, don't be scared that you can't play any games in Linux. I can't play Black Desert Online though, so I'm kind of annoyed by that. But whatever.
It's the end of the world. Let's
Yeah,
boycott Steam.
hey, there you go.
Uh, we move into the next topic, or still on OS?
These are all kind of in one topic, I guess.
They're just chatty topics.
Gotcha.
Um, do you, do you want to just? I don't know. It's so hard. Like I'm coming at the point. I'm thinking, it's like, how do you find like a language to use? Like, I mean, you can Google and see which ones, but
You almost have to like
eh,
just try it out and it falls in your lap, you know?
yeah. But like an overview of them, could we do that? Like, if you wanted to do,
Just like our view on what languages
but
are.
like, yeah. But then like general ones,
Yeah.
like I don't know. Yeah.
I'll just speak to personal experience, or not even personal experience, personal opinions on the languages.
Hmm.
So if I just think off the top of my head, Swift and Kotlin. Swift is for iOS. I don't want to say for iOS. Swift is for Apple-based products, so iOS, Mac OS, that type of stuff. Um, and then Kotlin is for Android-based products. Their syntax is very similar. They're very modern languages. They're super clean. I wish they could be used outside of their ecosystems, um, because of how clean and nice they are to use. And I think they're probably going to blow up here soon, especially if they get more of the DSLs built in, depending on which platform they're going to. Um, the next thing that would come to mind would be Rust, just because of its performance alone. And like on so GitHub does a yearly developer survey of like hundreds of thousands of developers, and Rust has consistently for the last couple of years been the most loved language. Um, and I think that's A, because of the performance, but B, because it it allows you to get what you want out of a low level language while having some of the niceties of a higher level language. But I don't know enough about it to speak intelligently. um, C Sharp and Java are very similar. Java is kind of a catch-all. You can use it for just about anything. The language, the documentation, all the websites around it are kind of ugly. They're kind of outdated. Um, Java, the nice thing about it is it goes to anything. It works on everything. I don't know, like you can't get it to run on Mac though. Like you could run like a Java app, right? Like
You run the jar,
yeah, but like you're not gonna
but
make like an iOS app with Java.
yeah, but as I said before, Kotlin's the new Java. So Kotlin runs or is like 100% uh, translated
Backwards.
like back and forth, uh, and also runs on the JVM. So
And that's another topic is virtual machines. Like most languages, that like you don't just run the code; they compile down to something, and then some sort of virtual machine runs the code. And the nice part about that is languages can share the virtual machine. So like Java, Kotlin, Scala, Groovy, they all run on the Java virtual machine. Um, so you just have to have a compiler that compiles down to it, so you can make whatever syntax you want with your language and make it run on the JVM. Um, so yeah, Java will work and it will probably be around for a long time just because of its enterprise uses. Like it is the go-to if you want to make an absolutely massive application, and that's partly due to its capability of going to multiple platforms, and partly due to its uh, massive adoption. There's just so many libraries and open source plugins out there that you can use that make Java prevent you from reinventing the wheel. Um, it may be a pain in the ass to work with some of the libraries and whatnot, but at least they're there, and you don't have to like go figure out how to do like geolocation and stuff yourself. Um, what are some other languages that come to mind? Oh, some of the more
web,
common ones. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I was gonna say web. Some of the more
yeah, you
common
said
ones that come
web.
to mind are scripting languages like JavaScript, Python, and TypeScript. Um, I personally, and I know Zach has somewhat agreement on this, don't enjoy scripting languages. Um, they al- they almost give the user too much of a capability, um, without having some style guides set in place by either a company or an organization. The code can be really, really hard to read and understand what it's doing. That might also be from lack of experience in the languages. Um, but I've tried to do JavaScript, and I have done a decent amount of JavaScript in my life as well as Python. They just don't feel clean, I guess. It is nice not having to like type in brackets and whatnot, but I almost think the visual cues that they imply make it easier to read the code, even though you're typing less or typing more. Um, but that might also just be because I'm used to the curly braces and whatnot. Um, Other web languages, PHP, don't do it.
Yeah, don't do PHP. Ruby.
Ruby, yeah, I'd recommend Ruby. I don't like. I've seen a lot of job openings for it. I've seen a little bit of the syntax. I haven't used it a lot, but I know a lot of people enjoy
It's a good scripting. Ruby on Rails is kind of intense. I'm not behind that train.
it.
Um,
Yeah,
but
what
if
are
you want to
the?
hand off, I can talk about some other ones.
Oh, the only
Do
other one is that comes to
Python?
mind is C++. Sorry, yeah, we can talk
So,
about Python first.
oh yeah, Python's another scripting language. That
Uh,
one's really popular, but honestly, I for like if coming from a Swift background, with Swift having interoperability with Python, like I would just learn JavaScript just because JavaScript has such a versatile like I mean, the web runs everywhere. So if you can write JavaScript, then I mean it's
you don't
in
have to write
some
an
form
iOS
like in
and an Android
Java.
app.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean anyone can go to a website. Uh but yeah, I mean I've seen a lot of cool things be done with JavaScript. But yeah, not the biggest fan of it, so I won't speak on that. Yeah, so C++, C, Objective C, those are all very low level languages. Very, but they're low level languages respective to what we just said. But I would definitely advise learning C because once you've learned C, then it's easy to learn either one of those. Not that you'd use Objective C, more that you use C++ to get into Unreal Engine. Thinking of other ones. You touched on Rust a bit. I think that's a really good topic. You can run quite a Rust can like run almost anything. It can run a UI client or a GUI client. It can do a server. It can do embedded systems. It can do like lights and sound with a MIDI controller. You can program all that on it, and pretty much runs quite a bit. I haven't seen that much professional use for it, but I know it's going to be more popular because Rust is pretty much like a C++ or a C, but it is very like safe of a language. Like the compiler freaks out a ton and gives you tons of errors and really walks you through how to write Rust. So this is very annoying, but once you know how to write Rust, those they're crazy people. Doing a lot of different open source libraries and that stuff. So
Oh, something we haven't hit on yet: WebAssembly.
oh yes.
WebAssembly is going to be a new. Okay, I don't know a whole lot about it. Don't judge me. But it basically it's going to be a new way that applications can run on web. Feel free to correct me. But basically, like you can run Rust
Compile and
code.
run code.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can basically run Rust on a website instead of JavaScript, and that is gonna like revolutionize things. Because for the longest time, JavaScript's been the only thing that you can use on web. Um,
So I've heard of I've heard of this topic. I've heard the argument that Wasm can't update the DOM. It can only compile and get an output of code. So
oh,
you still need like JavaScript to do something with the DOM.
darn it!
I don't know that much, but there's Wasm and Wasi or whatever. That's gonna kind of be a replacement for Docker in some ways. I don't know too much on that, but I like read a little bit in the article. Really just need to look more into it though. But yeah, I think we got off topic.
A little bit.
But yeah,
Um,
those are kind of the languages that we know. If we missed one, then we're sorry.
no, no, no. Talk like a YouTuber. Feel free to comment and subscribe.
Oh yeah,
We'll look in the comments.
yeah. I
Actually, I
can't
haven't
forget
checked
we're
the
on
stream
YouTube.
chat at all. Nobody ever watches this thing on time. Yeah, we got no stream chat.
There we go.
Rip.
I'm
But
at the very least, I'm doing these videos for myself to go back and watch them.
Well,
but yeah,
they're also a good catalog um, of progress and history.
hmm
Um, I don't really have anything else like off the top of my head. We're over an hour.
Project inspiration.
Oh yeah.
yes.
Um, and that's another thing that like we can't. Okay, so Zach and I've been trying to figure out ways to conquer this for a while to get projects that we can get more people on. Because right now, like the One Leaf website, for example, unless you're kind of like in the know, it can be a little hard to get on it. Not only that, but if you're not interested in web technologies, then like why would you join on? Um, uh, on the to counterpoint that, the reason you should get on is because we have a team and we're starting to do more professional style development. So it's a great way to get experience in what being an actual developer is like. Um,
Hmm.
but getting
Or
projects,
designer.
yeah, exactly.
Don't forget us UX people.
Sorry, I've been in
Yeah.
my developer headspace for so long. I'm a code
Yeah,
monkey.
I'm taking this. So for project inspiration, I want to talk on this a little bit more. I kind of like entered the chat saying like we don't need to like focus all on the projects that are active. Like personal projects are a really big thing. Like if you get a personal project like Sabian or mine, and maybe people want to jump on, then I mean then you've made a project and you've got people to jump on yours. So you're helping this kind of, I wouldn't say issue, I'd say drought of active community projects. I mean, there's a lot of us in here. If you have a GitHub, then if you're working on something, like as long as it's planned out and you're willing to accept other people, and this goes to the designers too. If you go, make something on Dribble and you flesh it out enough where, I mean, hey, I have all the designs, like, can I get developers to work on the project? I mean, there's that handoff too, and I don't know if you want to talk about that more, Fardeen.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I can touch on it in two ways. I'll go with what you suggested first. Yeah. So designers, unfortunately, quite a few of us um, aren't as well versed in coding. We know basic HTML, CSS, enough to get us by and talk to you devs, but some of us really struggle with bridging that gap. And I think as a designer, we should always try to be as accommodating as we expect the devs to be. Like it's not just fair to have you guys learn how designs work and come on our Figma and learn all the processes and not mimic that on our front. So I think for a designer, learning that through active project work, where they're converting their designs into actual products, whether it's doing it themselves by learning coding or if it is enlisting the help of a dev team in the community and then working with them, I think it's always beneficial, as you said, um, to make actual shippable products, right? Finish a project completely as much as you can, and converting a design into a coded product does that. So absolutely, I would 100% recommend it for the existing designers in the community and any incoming designers as well, or anyone interested in design. That it's always great to team up with a dev to actualize your idea or project. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I'll speak to project inspiration a bit more generally, and then from my experience. So, regardless of whatever specialization you're interested in, whether it's data science, development, or design, I think there's a wealth of topics to pursue and problems to solve. And project inspiration, as challenging as it is, isn't as difficult once you know where to look. Um, for example, one avenue people can start partaking in and find inspiration for their projects or um, find people to work with and start creating something right off the bat are hackathons. They've been very popular recently. Many more are popping up all over the world every year, and they're becoming increasingly open to newcomers and beginners as well. So I think going to one of these organized meetups, which they essentially are, and having whatever focus or theme or toolkit they have you use, it can be very easy to find project inspiration there just because you're surrounded by lots of people ideating nonstop over the course of a weekend or 24 hours. And the whole purpose of a hackathon is just coming up with uh, ranging from sometimes the coolest and wackiest idea to sometimes the most feasible idea, but regardless, coming up with an idea and actualizing it in the form of an MVP, a presentable MVP. So I think going to one, even if you don't know what you're doing, just being in that space, you learn a lot on that process. You get a lot of inspiration for projects. And if you've started a hackathon, if you started a project at a hackathon, there's always that opportunity to continue it past that. A lot of my personal projects actually stemmed from hackathon projects that I kind of wanted to flesh out even more. I'm like, whoa, 2 days later, this is actually a thing. I wonder if I could design it a bit more, if I spend more time on it, not coked up on Red Bull and 48 hours of no sleep, if I could do a better job. And uh, uh, most often you can do a better job once you're on actual sleep schedules and not panicking for a deadline. So that's one way to go about it. There's a lot of online hackathons as well. You don't necessarily have to find one near you. DevPost has a lot of online hackathons that they post pretty regularly. Um, Believe it or not, Eventbrite is also very helpful in finding hackathons nearby. You
Interesting.
have
I
a
didn't
lot
know
of
that one.
yeah, like it's crazy. Some people put it on Eventbrite and not anywhere else. MLH, which is kind of like the unofficial slash official. I don't really know how official they are, but they are the formal, currently at least, the current existing formal body that kind of consolidates all the hackathons that happen under one umbrella. So going on their website, you can find hackathons happening all over the world, and they have a list of upcoming and previous hackathons as well. So it's a good repository for knowing what's happening and when. Um, there's also company and design firm websites. A lot of firms, consultancy groups, and companies have challenges, open challenges posted up on their sites. Um, for example, one that comes at the top of my head is Agorize, Agorize. I believe they're out of France, and they're an open platform for companies to post innovation challenges on there. A lot of them have monetary prizes, a lot of them have other physical prizes, but that's a good way to find a space that you're interested in and a problem that could be solved with an active project, and even team members to work with. Um, IDEO, a very popular design firm, one of the best in the world, they have an offshoot of their website. I think it's called, or at least an offshoot of their organization. It's called Open IDEO, and they post social challenges in the form of design competitions there. So they would post, for example, a public prompt saying like, "How do we build um, better reading materials for the elderly?" Or how do we design? I think this was one of the more recent one. How do we design a cohesive visual language for cybersecurity solutions? Um, and then that's a great prompt to get you started to think about, okay, well, what am I interested in, and is this something that I can actually build something for? Um, so yeah, that's one avenue for project inspiration. I feel like I'm rambling on a bit too much, and I should give some people time to chime in. So feel free to jump in with your thoughts and suggestions.
I just do anything that I find exciting at the time. So I don't know. Like, I think it's good to like kind of dream up of a lot of things and think past MVP and get really excited about it, because
Hmm.
that makes me even more excited to get to MVP, or whatever is determined of, like, I can show this to people and not be like, hey, it's in under development, or it's under, it still needs design, or that anything like that. Like, showing someone your finished product or what you feel is finished is
Right.
definitely where you want to get. But then it's also thinking after that too. Um,
I think the difficulty with that approach is if you're a beginner, it's often hard to know what is realistically possible.
mhm.
Like the reason why we're able to do it well, and the reason why quite a few other people are, is because they've got the skills, the experience, and the knowledge and the tool sets to know that, okay, well, whatever I do imagine, um, this is what could potentially be a representation of that idea or concept. But for a beginner, it can be, I feel like I was there even at one instance. It's very intimidating to know what is possible. Like if I was to step in to design and not have that technical experience, um, I wouldn't even know where to start. Like even if I dream up, let's say, um, I don't know, some sort of navigational or some sort of app to connect book readers around the world or something. It's like, oh, well, is this even possible? What would it look like? Like, I would be missing so many different components that it would be very intimidating for me to start.
So I think Zach hit up on a good point that kind of just doing whatever you're interested in um, is a good way to go, but figuring out how to apply that is like a whole different thing.
Yes.
And a solution that Zach and I have come up with recently is finding public APIs. So basically, like for example, the one that I'm going to be working with is the League of Legends API. They basically have a way for you to look at all your stats for your profile, look at all your past games, all that jazz, and almost
Hmm.
build a tool to track your progress and ranked in the game, for example. Um, a couple weeks ago, we had a guy that was interested in chemical engineering, so I found some chemistry APIs that had like molecular compounds, an API for that. So maybe he could do
Hmm.
like a Python visualization of what a molecule looks like or something. Um,
That was JP, right? Or who was?
I think
No,
it was Jacob.
Yep.
Jacob. Yeah, no, Jacob. But
Um,
yeah, and he even was checking out the Guilders 2 API.
mhm.
Right.
So yeah, and that kind of foreshadows something that we'll talk about in the meetup uh, in 2 3 weeks, 2 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think just to summarize everything I said, and my thoughts at least on the matter is yes, I definitely agree with just making whatever comes to mind. I think nothing really trumps up personal creativity, and you really hone down your personal style as well and your interests. So I do agree with you there. I think the distinction that I do want to make for anyone who might be listening is that if you are a beginner and that process seems intimidating, especially as someone who's just jumping into the technical world, having something that scopes your vision a bit is beneficial. And whether that's an API, existing tools, um, a community project that you jump into for learning, or going to a hackathon, whatever it is, I think having scope really helps
I
with knowing what to do.
I can speak to that personally. Every time I make a game, it's too big. I get a month into it and say, "Whoa, this is way too much."
Right. Yeah. Like I think a scope is something we all suffer from. I think as you start gaining that experience, it just becomes a matter of closing it, like Zach mentioned, rather than knowing where to start. But at least when you're starting off building that technical skill and knowledge base, definitely have something to restrict your vision and keep it grounded. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of sums up project inspiration. If you don't know what to do, but you want to do something, message us. We'll help you figure out what you want to do.
Yes.
Go one leaf.
Speaking of projects, did we? Did you guys get to think on?
Oh, the
Uh,
nonprofit database.
yes.
Uh, I think Will was supposed to lead. He said he wanted to project manage that. I will poke him real quick.
Or didn't he have his own project?
Yeah. No, he had his own project.
Oh no, his was the markdown.
Yes. I
Uh,
was. I was
you
the
were the yeah,
one.
you were the. Sorry,
Yes.
hold on, my bad.
No worries. I'm like, wait a second. Um, but yeah, no. For me, at least, what I was thinking was I'd like to get V1 done for the website, just because that's an immediate priority, and we need all design hands on deck.
Yep.
So for me, I haven't even made up my mind on how it would look, what the scope is, what are like just any parameters of it just yet. I haven't touched it in my brain, just because I want to get that V1
Yeah.
stuff out for the website,
Um,
and then think on it.
I would happily one of the streams in the future we can sit down and do kind of what we did for One Leaf. Just do a roadmap, all ideas on the table, like brainstorming.
Sure.
And then in the
Yeah.
future, you kind of scope it down to V1, V2, whatnot, and then
Yeah.
go on from there.
That works. But would it be so? My main concern is I don't see it starting off, even if it does get the clearance to start off. or the hands to start off for at least another 2 weeks at the minimum.
Yeah, same.
Um, do you both foresee any interference with other organizational projects, especially if I start requesting, or not requesting, start asking for some of our core team if they're interested in coming onto that project,
I
because
want
that would divide their efforts, and I don't want to necessarily cut away from the existing projects.
Once we get to
Uh,
V1, I will kind of be happy. Personally, not speaking as a community leader, but personally, I'd rather have people working on whatever they're going to enjoy most, whatever that is.
Got it. Okay.
yeah, and I'm on the. I totally would say the more projects, the better. I feel like if they're planned out and they have the tickets,
Hmm.
at some point, that makes me happier than having less projects and like not enough tickets. Because then we can really kind of just get the community involved instead of relying on the core team.
Right.
Because get more people into the core team and kind of
Right.
build a bigger community for that. But yeah,
That and is like
Okay.
for the One Leaf website, we kind of have all the tickets like doled out. So like if we got more people that were interested, like we wouldn't be able to handle them, or we'd have to sit down and make more tickets. Whereas if you had your project scoped out already, you could just say, hey, just if you're interested, go help Fardine. On top of
Okay.
that, the other nice part about your project is that we could do another poll to say what do the developers want to use for the front and back end, and that gives us a whole nother
mhm.
scope of developers that could come to your aid.
Mm-hmm.
So that you may not even impact the developers on the One Leaf website whatsoever. Are you
Fair
putting
enough.
away
Right.
dishes?
Oh no, my brother's putting away dishes.
Ah, I called
Um,
it.
okay, that sounds good. I just wanted to run it by you guys and then make sure that it wasn't deviating any resources from the other projects. But okay, that makes sense. Um, Speaking about community involvement, though, I did have a couple of points or questions that might be good for a discussion.
Sure.
Um, so I think Zach, you touched upon this quite a few times actually. But one of the current problems, or at least one of the current challenges that I'm noticing, is that um, if you're a newcomer into the community, there isn't necessarily any uh, way to direct you somewhere. I mean, there are those foundational tags and interests, and you can start joining channels and start talking to people. But beyond that, there is really no
There's no direction or
path.
workflow.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
exactly. And it's almost kind of like it's a prompt rather than a guided
No, yeah.
uh,
We kind of drop them into
process.
the deep end.
Yeah, there's no training wheels on that. So I think that might be something to think about on your end. I don't know what the best way to be more conducive with that is, but
Nah,
um,
we'll sleep on it though and come up with a solution.
yeah. The second thing is, I think announcements would really help with community animation. Um,
We haven't had one in a little while.
yeah. I think weekly announcements on what's happening with the community and the progress being made in the projects, summed up as like one quick post, like, hey, this is what happened in this project. This is what happened in this project. Feel free to message this person if you want to join it. It's like this constant reminder of that. Like it's this constant reminder that the community is active, that there's things happening, and that there are these projects that you can always join, even if you forgot about them or you don't know which channel to look up or who to message, blah blah blah. You might get those few stragglers who are looking at the announcements. So that might be one way to go about it.
I definitely don't think that can hurt.
Hmm. Well, it also comes down to how alive the community is, and we touched upon this I think 2 streams ago, where you have um, roughly 200 members, 200 plus members, but it's only that small group of people who are interacting back and forth. Um, so as an so anyone coming in, they might not be as convinced about um, the level of activity. especially if they had an impression of what it might be or if they had an expectation. And I think there's little you can do to make everyone more animated, but making the organization itself feel alive, that's definitely doable. And whether that's announcements, whether that's questions, I know you guys are doing your best and everything. I don't mean to cut into that, but I think that's probably one other way that could potentially help you guys.
That leads into our request for anyone interested in doing more PR kind of stuff. Well, that's definitely our weakest point. I would love to do more animations. I just forget about them. But yeah, we have things to kind of announce.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're really kind of dead on LinkedIn and Twitter for posting.
Well, Tina's been very active on Medium. I think she might be the best person to reach out on that.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
kind of what we're leaning towards as well.
So hopefully, yeah. Well, that we need to put it like a reminder on the calendar or something to post an
Mm-hmm.
announcement because I think we definitely should.
Mm-hmm. My personal strengths are more on internal community animation rather than external.
Same.
Um, so I could try to help with things like that or come up with ideas like now, but
I think for us, it's almost just a lack of interest in wanting to go make that post and whatnot.
yeah. But I think it also warrants the fact that not um, having more people won't necessarily solve that community animation piece.
Nope.
Hmm.
I think if anything, it builds more pressure to satisfy more people. I think that really needs to be honed down on. Like, what's there is a culture here. Like I can feel it, and I feel like everyone else who's part of the core team feels it, and everyone else who's participating outside of the core team definitely feels it. But what is that culture in actual defined um, statements, right? And what does it mean to be a One Leaf member? And
Tina put that into words for us, thankfully, for the One Leaf website. We have the copy for that.
right. But just formalizing those things, like what can you do as a One Leaf member? What can you expect as a One Leaf member?
Hey, you're
Um,
supposed to handle that on the landing page, Fardeen. Gosh.
well, you guys are the ones that created it,
No,
so
yeah, yeah. I'm just giving you shit.
no, I get it. But I think as the community grows and as it becomes more mature and as it's formalizing and these things are becoming more apparent, that's something for you guys as the founders and as kind of like the community managers. It's for you to sit on, think about. Well, um, how do we make this a very clear distinction and title for people to be proud of and feel like they really are part of a vibrant community?
Yeah. I think one issue that I think, and we've talked about, is that I don't know how many people have just turned off notifications or muted and just don't look at it, or
Mm-hmm.
went to the website, went on, and now they're in and they made a post, or they went back on it and made a few more posts, and now it's whenever they go on that website versus like they have the app on their computer or on their phone.
Right.
Um,
Or who
but then
just joined
also,
and just left. Yeah. No, sorry. Go ahead.
no, yeah, yeah. But maybe we should do a purge.
Well, I wouldn't call it a purge. I think purge
Yeah.
is too strong. Maybe
Come
an
on,
organizational audit. Let's
We have
we need a census.
168
That's all
people
we
that
need.
have joined and have said nothing.
Uh, yeah, I think this also gets to another point I wanted to make. It might help you guys to have an Excel sheet or some sort of organizational chart
Yeah.
on who's who, who's doing what, which projects are they part of, who are the people that you want to be mentors and community animators, who are naturally filling that bin, and who are the people that do need a little bit more poking and prodding to get movement out of. Who are the folks in the middle?
Excel
Like these things.
spreadsheet, though. No, I'm thinking another page on the website.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's a matter of making that information public. Um,
Or
if
an
anything,
admin page.
even then, I think that information should be very privy to like certain
No, yeah,
people.
you're right. I'm just being funny.
Uh, but yeah, as you guys being the higher level folks in the community, I think it might serve serve you to know who's who and how do you interact with them.
Yeah, and
Um,
so we've really kind of uh like we've tried to go like that, but we've really left it open range, like you've said. It's kind of difficult to find. You really have to like own it on yourself to go, go to the channel and talk. And we've never had like a really formal one. Like we're pretty lenient on the name. As long as you give an introduction, then you're good.
mhm.
But do you feel like it would I don't even care that much, but do you feel like it would detract people from joining? That it
Oh yeah,
wasn't like,
like if it was less chill.
well, it was more steps to join. Like right
Oh,
now you have to,
100%. As a designer, you want less friction, right? So I
yeah,
think
so that yeah. So then we get all these people that just join and kind of do the bare minimum, and
right.
then what? I mean, that takes how many steps? How do we know, like, like I said before, it's like,
We're getting into UX.
yes, I love
And
it.
service design. But yes, no. So there's definitely trade-offs, and I think going on either side of the spectrum, do you go for complete flexibility and complete transparency and openness? Well, then you get situations like this where you have people who aren't really participating and the community feels bloated. Or do you go on the opposite end and become super strict and bureaucratic, where it's very tight and very, very processed, but then you have a lot of friction to anyone who feels the slightest bit intimidated. Um, I think there's a sweet spot to hit there. Right now, I feel like One Leaf isn't necessarily there, and it's just a matter of tweaking back and forth until you guys feel that spot has been hit. Um, so I think there's really no way to go about it aside from doing public surveys, whether it's anonymous or not. That's another question. But public surveys and frequent, constant testing. But that's the thing. Um, the testing itself would make the community feel very much alive and very adaptive and very um, like it'll make it seem living, like it's constantly changing and adapting to whatever is happening versus staying static and expecting it to organically change, which I think might be a bit more difficult or less probable to happen. So I think it'll require shoves back and forth from you guys, but I think that in itself is a way to make this a living beast.
So I think some steps that we could do to kind of help understand who's active and not is we do have an inactive rank. We're just not using it. I think maybe over the span of a month, we can post weekly announcements and track who's reacted to those and who's been like messaging. And then, I mean, there's quite a bit of people that I know that haven't messaged or done anything for a while that I can look at quick, or names that I don't even recognize because I do recognize quite a bit of names. Um, but really trying to get people to, yeah, interact just a little. Like if it's a reaction on, the announcement, at minimum, not even putting a message or anything like that, just kind of understanding who's actually looking in the Discord.
The
But then we can,
challenge, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, but then just give them the rank of inactive, and we can make a private like start channel and message them in there. But yeah, what were you gonna lead into?
Oh, I was gonna say that the challenge I foresee with that is um, how that would be perceived. It can be like you don't want a behavior where we're essentially using coercive action and it's not punishing, but it almost is in that realm, right? Like if you're not active, then you
Yeah,
get
but
designated this
the
title
main
that no one
point,
really wants.
I'll start with the main point is just so we can message them. We cannot private message 100 people in like
Oh
a
yeah,
reasonable amount of time. So
absolutely,
that's the only
absolutely.
reason. It's not to corral people and put them in a. You don't have access to that. The whole thing's still open. It's just a classifying like, hey, we need to check in on you. That's to stay away from the Excel doc. Uh, I don't know about public shaming at that point if they are marked inactive. What do they feel?
I would recommend doing it privately. I think there's definitely merit in tracking that, but my personal suggestion would be having it done on your nodes versus making it a public title or public tag. Because it really doesn't affect anyone who is active. Like we go on in the community with that, like with our lives, and we enjoy each other's presence without worrying too much about the inactive people. Because we have each other and we know who the active people are, and we're enjoying each other's company. So it doesn't necessarily affect us knowing who's inactive or not. The only people it really does affect are you guys and the inactive people themselves. Um, and for you guys, there's definitely a positive benefit of having that information. But my worry is that the inactive people themselves, um, whether they choose to become active or whether they one day hop onto oneleif and decide today's the day I'm going to be active, and they're like, "What? I've been marked inactive," or whatever the scenario is. I don't think having that title or tag would be um, uh, like in my head it's more of a negative thing than it is a positive thing. Surely it's definitely not in the realm of public shaming, but I don't see it as a positive thing. So I think maybe having it as a private note for you guys to know who to message would be a better option. But that's just me.
We can make a bot for it with like private
Yeah,
roles or
like
something.
even a bot works, or that could be a project too.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
having people figure out how to make a Discord bot and make it a community thing. But yeah, I definitely agree though that having that distinction is important. And I think for you guys, it's going to be even more difficult as the community grows because, like you said, you can't DM everyone, and I am not envious in the slightest.
Yeah. So and that's kind of why we already have the like egg roll or the start roll. Because as Sabian said, there's 16 people that haven't given an introduction and online, and then there's 169 people offline that haven't given an introduction that are not in like general.
Right.
So then you know at least everyone online in general, you can go and see at least one message from them. So at that point, they have been interested enough to like join. It's just what do we do about the people still? I mean, I guess we can leave them. I don't really care, honestly.
I'm fine with the people that have more initiative taking it, but I don't know about the ones that almost have the social anxiety aspect.
Yeah, those are the missed opportunities. I think Zach, your approach is the best one right now until a better solution comes up.
Yep.
Because, like you said, Sabian, the people who are active are going to be active, and um, that is growing steadily. So I think it's nothing to be too concerned about at the moment, but doesn't mean that there shouldn't be a better solution somewhere soon.
So what I heard is that we should start recruiting. What do people think about that?
Yeah. Soon as V1's up.
Go, go, go.
Yes. So coming back to that, I do condone means support. Yes. I do condone recruitment, but I think before you go into full blast recruitment, definitely make sure that your channels are as um, as fluid and as guided as possible. That someone who joins in, you know what friction they're facing, and it's not much.
Zach, I think the biggest thing that we could do is instead of doing that message that we do in the start channel that the bot gives them instructions, send them a private message and include in that a link to the video that we made about Discord and how it works. I think that would probably be the best solution for now.
I don't know. I'd rather have like a
You
infograph
definitely,
on the website of like kind of like the joining process and like
Well, that's fair
Discord
too.
information and that stuff. Because just like okay, we made it. I'm not against making a Discord bot. I want to make a Discord bot with people. But it's just the whole thing of how long do we use Discord?
right.
That's true.
There's a really quick ceiling to it. Sorry, Fardine. Yeah,
Oh
go
no, I
ahead.
was gonna say I think this is a great place for Susie, especially because she's a UX designer. So how do you design One Leaf as a product and a service? and make sure that the user experience of it, or at least in this case, the member experience, is as frictionless and as enjoyable as possible. So I think I think because she's doing the design audits already, this would be a good place to start another design audit and think about oneleif's service design and how do you test these things, these questions, and how do you make sure that people are how do you know who's feeling what on a mass scale? I would also recommend one-to-one interviews with some of the core team folks too on why they joined and what's keeping them here. That might give you guys some insights.
Who do you want to talk to, Fardane? Just tell us right now. You set
Uh,
up one-on-one.
I
You want to be a two-on-one? What's this?
well, I don't know. I'm actually curious as to why people like, for example, I just noticed Fabrice is on the voice channel. The Fabrice and Will and Daniel, for example, are continuing to participate. I know why I am, and I know why you guys are. Well, at least at a surface level, I know why everyone is. But what's keeping them here versus somewhere else that might be doing the same thing?
It's our amazing personalities, duh.
Well, okay. Well, is it? And if it is, how do you codify that, right? How do you make it an organizational thing instead of a person thing? What if you're sick? What if you leave?
Oh yeah, fair point.
Right? What's the legacy on that? And how do you make it something that everyone um, showcases rather than just you, right? Especially as the community grows. So one-to-one interviews definitely help get those responses.
Boys, I am starving. I think I'm gonna have to quit the stream. We can keep talking if you want, but I gotta go get some food.
Yeah, I got to go back to studying as well.